Jane Tausman. Lou Clementisitz. I know I pronounced that wrong. I'm sorry, Lou. Rob Karabinchak.
Maybe 3 items. First, I wanted to thank the council for tabling the ordinance for redevelopment, and I hope that it actually does get tweaked and changed a little bit, like was discussed tonight. The other issue was that with the mayor coming out and stating how he wasn't supporting the development for the transit village, I think that the council should be proactive on it and nail it home that there's not going to be any residential development there. And as much as Steve Golan's going to wait till the end of the year for when the state tries to implement some new laws and legislation and tie it into COA, let him do whatever he wants. But as far as I'm concerned, I believe the council now should ask the mayor to please have New Jersey Transit move forward on the parking. Let Steve Golan develop his property around the needs of the people. And so if this council could move it along, I'll be happy to email the mayor again and ask him to release New Jersey Transit to start. And the last thing, I didn't attend the meeting, but the ethics board, I think, had a meeting last week. Does anybody know if they adopted the rules?
June 5th, and they are working on their procedures. They were very diligent in trying to make sure that there were long discussions. I didn't stay for the full meeting, but there were long discussions about the implementation of the procedures, how they were going to go about a person filing a complaint, and there was lots of discussion. They have not adopted their procedures yet. I was waiting to hear when their next meeting was, but somebody's away, and I hadn't heard back yet to give an update, but I certainly will, I'm sure it'll be posted on the website, and, if they haven't had a meeting as of our next meeting, I'll definitely have some more information for you then.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Karabinchak. Judith Kroll.
She left.
Faith Heisler.
She left.
Cesar Bardello. That's Barrietto. Marianne Hennessy.
She left.
Joan Gates, and it could be Geets. Joan. Okay, we're off the list, ladies and gentlemen. Open to public comment. Mr. Petrucelli.
Mr. Lear, you're aware of the regional contract agreements, for buying out of our co-obligations. And there's obviously legislation to turn that. We have a significant amount of money there that we could utilize in one of these contracts before the state changes these rules on us. We brought this up a while ago, and I think you'd be remiss if you didn't enter into some kind of agreement now before they change it. You could get us out of half of our obligations to COA right now by going into one of these, and it's, what is it, it's $35,000 per credit? So if we can buy out of half of our COA obligations by using this agreement, before, the new Senate is talking about repealing this.
Joe, it's actually not $35,000, it's $86,000.
Okay, 86,000.
And you can only RCA out up to, I believe it's 50% of your obligation. However, you can't RCA out using growth share money. You have to use what's in our existing affordable housing fund, or you have to bond for it. There is legislation, as you mentioned, that would entirely eliminate the ability to use RCAs entirely. That would be unfortunate indeed.
Do you know how much money is sitting in that account?
About $2.5 million.
So there's $2.5 million of COA obligation to get, some of this off our back. I mean, especially what's going on. I mean, not taking advantage of that before the legislation passes is crazy.
I'll talk to Shirley about that.
Please. I mean, that's important. I wanted to clear something. When somebody makes a statement about an application, especially a mortgage application, I'm a licensed mortgage banker. The application that people take on a mortgage, that application has to be certified again when they take it. So an application in the mortgage industry is the law. If you change that, you don't get the loan. So I don't know what he was talking about. I'm a forensic expert in lending, and I can tell you, if one of these guys that gets approved by the redevelopment for a bond, he fails and goes bankrupt, ultimately, just like you see in the Federal Reserve jumping in and bailing out all these big investment bankers, it's the taxpayers that pay. So when he makes statements like that to the public, they're inaccurate statements, and I'll challenge him any day on it. So be aware that if that bond fails, it comes back to the taxpayer. period, in some form or another, through litigation, whatever mechanism you want to go, Jeff, you know it's coming back to the taxpayers. And I don't think, Ms. Pearlstein, you get defensive about your due diligence, and I don't think anybody implies due diligence. And maybe that's when you perceiving us coming up here and saying, we hope you will look at this, and we hope you will talk about that, and we hope you'll consider this. If you want to speak about your due diligence and tell us, that would be helpful too. So if you're going to make a statement like, we're not thinking you do your due diligence, instead of just saying, I did it, tell us what the due diligence was, because last time it was an Oklahoma report on a significant change that impacts the taxpayers. What was in that report? So if you're going to make the statement to defend yourself, I think you might as well tell us what that due diligence was. But I can tell you, there was council members that approved an application that went down to the local financing board that they never saw. So my question is, how does an application not go through the council president before it goes down to local government financing? So please don't take it personal. Nobody's insinuating anything about someone's due diligence.
Mr. Petrucelli, I'll just ask you in the future to direct any question through the council chair
Council President.
to an individual council member.
I will bear that in mind the next time. Thank you,
sir.
Councilman.
Ms. Wells?
I just want to clarify one thing. When I read the article that was in the Asia report, I meant no offense to anyone. I'm sorry that somebody made a comment. I have never in my life said anybody or agreed with love it or leave it. I had a reporter ask me, you know, if I'm so unhappy about things, why do I still stay here? Because it's home. So I would never say that to anybody. I read it for the purpose of letting people know that things are in the works at times that the public doesn't know about. And also, we also know that when the politicians go out and speak, of course, what they say depends on the group that they're speaking to. But I meant no offense for that. I think, too, you're gonna have to be very careful about what you consider decorum. The remark was uncalled for, and I would object to that. But you are gonna be openly criticized. And there's an old saying, too, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. Now, you promised, you know, you ran for 4 years. I have an idea that some of you didn't plan to stay. But since the leadership in the party didn't change, you're stuck with 4 years. So you're going to have to make the best of that. Now, the rest I'll try to go quickly about. The emergency management coordinator. They're not who are the first responders? Everybody kept saying they're not the first responders. Who are the first responders?
Mr. Cancro?
Police, fire, and EMS.
Okay. Since they're the first responders, when you use the term first, I think something else is coming. Do we also expect the coordinator or the deputies to come to Edison even though they are not the first responders?
They eventually will come to town hall, go in the situation room, and then plan working with the first responders on the next step.
Okay, I hope they get here in a hurry, because I got a little nervous when I watched the astronauts take off the other day, and I think they had everybody on board right there who might be needed. They didn't wait for them to come or to call.